Welcome to our channel. We are so glad you found your way here. Let us help you fall asleep. Let's begin with the quiet collapse of Enron, the corporate failure of deception and greed. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it. Even the tallest towers eventually quiet down. Tonight, we gently explore the empty boardrooms and forgotten ambitions of the past. Your mind is calm, and we are ready to begin. The formation of this entity can be traced back to 1985 when two companies, Lay Company and Internorth, merged to create a new powerhouse in the energy sector. The founders, Kenneth Lay and a group of visionary executives, sought to capitalize on the burgeoning energy markets. They envisioned a company that would not only facilitate the transportation of natural gas, but also innovate in the realms of energy trading and marketing. Early on, the leadership recognized the potential for vast profits in deregulated markets. The decision to diversify operations into various energy sectors marked a pivotal moment for this rising giant. With aggressive expansion strategies, it began to establish itself as a key player, rapidly gaining prominence. The shift from a traditional utility company to a trading powerhouse reflected an ambition that transcended conventional business practices. In the ensuing years, corporate culture evolved, steering towards an environment that prioritized aggressive risk-taking and financial engineering. This atmosphere cultivated a sense of invincibility among executives. The pursuit of growth was relentless, and creative accounting practices facilitated the illusion of success. These developments laid the foundation for future complexities. The environment became increasingly conducive to deception, where the distinction between innovation and manipulation blurred. This initial phase, marked by ambitious aspirations, eventually set the stage for a monumental unraveling. The early successes in the energy market showcased remarkable innovation and strategic positioning. It began with the transformation of a traditional natural gas pipeline company into a formidable player in energy trading. This shift allowed it to capitalize on deregulation, positioning itself as an intermediary that offered market liquidity. The allure of endless profits drew in investors, fueling rapid expansion and a surge in stock prices. They crafted an image of an unstoppable force, celebrating milestones that seemed to defy conventional market logic. This region, characterized by vibrant commerce and ambitious ventures, witnessed an influx of talent. Bright minds were drawn to this promising environment, contributing to a culture that thrived on risk-taking and bold decision-making. Innovative financial instruments emerged, allowing it to hedge against market fluctuations while seemingly guaranteeing profitability. The company's narrative became one of relentless growth, amplified by aggressive marketing and charismatic leadership. These early triumphs masked underlying vulnerabilities. In the pursuit of maintaining the facade of success, a complex web of financial engineering evolved, obscuring the reality of their operations. The once clear distinctions between revenue and profit became increasingly blurred. The very elements that propelled growth began to sow the seeds of doubt, as stakeholders remained unaware of the impending storm that would. Enron's initial public offering marked a pivotal moment, transforming it from a modest enterprise into a financial juggernaut. This move allowed it to access vast pools of capital, fueling ambitions that exceeded the traditional boundaries of the energy sector. The market responded favorably, driven by a perception of innovation and profitability. Investors were drawn to the promise of high returns, captivated by the company's ambitious projections and a narrative steeped in groundbreaking ventures. Rapid expansion soon followed. New divisions emerged, each branded with the allure of market disruption. The company ventured into trading and broadband services, diversifying its portfolio and enticing further investment. As the stock price surged, so too did the confidence of executives, who began to prioritize short-term gains over sustainable practices. This shift created an environment where transparency waned and risk-taking flourished. The culture within the organization transformed. as it became increasingly insulated from external scrutiny. Employees were encouraged to chase aggressive targets, often at the expense of ethical considerations. This environment, however, obscured the growing fissures beneath the surface. The allure of rapid wealth masked the inherent vulnerabilities, leading to a precarious existence built on deception. What appeared as a gateway to unprecedented success became a conduit for the eventual unraveling of the company, setting the stage for a profound collapse. The architect of this business model, Jeffrey Skilling, played a pivotal role in shaping the company's trajectory. His vision was marked by ambitious pursuits aimed at transforming Enron into a leader in energy trading and beyond. This ambition manifested in a structure that prioritized complex financial instruments, enabling the illusion of growth while masking underlying vulnerabilities. Under his guidance, the company embraced a culture where risk was often overlooked in favor of short-term gains. Skilling's influence permeated the organization, fostering an environment where aggressive accounting practices became commonplace. The reliance on mark-to-market accounting provided a veneer of profitability, obscuring the reality of Enron's financial health. This approach allowed the company to report inflated earnings, creating a false sense of security among investors and stakeholders. The relentless pursuit of innovation led to a series of ventures that diverted attention from inherent risks. Skilling, driven by an unwavering confidence, pushed the company further into uncharted territories. The allure of rapid expansion begot a detachment from ethical considerations, fueling a cycle of deception that would. As the complexities of this model deepened, so too did the disconnect between performance and reality. The very strategies designed to propel Enron forward became the seeds of its eventual demise, illuminating the perilous nature of unchecked ambition. The introduction of mark-to-market accounting marked a significant shift in the financial practices of various corporations, Enron among them. This method allowed companies to record the estimated market value of their assets, rather than the purchase price, creating an illusion of profitability. It transformed the landscape of financial reporting, presenting a facade of robust earnings and growth that captivated investors and analysts alike. This accounting practice became a tool of manipulation, enabling Enron to portray a false narrative of success. They would project future profits from contracts as current income, a strategy that generated a misleading sense of stability and progress. The allure of immediate financial gain drove the firm deeper into a cycle of deception, where reality became secondary to perception. Analysts and investors, seduced by these glowing reports, overlooked the growing discrepancies between actual performance and projected figures. This region of financial optimism masked the underlying risks, creating an environment where risk-taking flourished unchecked. Enron's leadership, buoyed by the favorable reception of these inflated earnings, pressed forward with increasingly aggressive strategies and ventures. As the reliance on mark-to-market accounting deepened, the foundations of trust within the corporation began to erode. It fostered a culture where ethical boundaries blurred, allowing ambition to overshadow integrity. The consequences of this approach would soon become apparent, revealing the fragility of such an artificial construct. This new frontier presented itself as an opportunity laden with promise. Enron ventured into energy trading, positioning itself as a pioneering force within this burgeoning market. The allure of deregulation in the energy sector fueled ambitions, allowing for expansive growth. They sought to capitalize on the transforming landscape, trading natural gas and electricity with unprecedented zeal. Innovations in trading practices emerged, including the creation of complex financial instruments. This region became a hub of speculative transactions, where the lines between genuine commerce and mere speculation blurred. The company portrayed itself as a market maker, claiming to bring efficiency and transparency to a traditionally opaque industry. The narrative shifted to one of limitless potential, where profits surged in tandem with the ambition to reshape energy distribution. As these activities escalated, the financial models employed became increasingly intricate, often obscuring the underlying risks associated with them. Analysts and insiders noted the shift towards a reliance on projected earnings rather than tangible assets. The trading floor buzzed with optimism, yet beneath this veneer of success lay a growing unease. The pursuit of market dominance intensified, and ethical considerations gradually faded from focus, overshadowed by the desire for exponential growth. This transformation marked a significant moment in the company's trajectory, signaling the onset of an era characterized by complicated dealings and a perilous detachment from reality. A pivotal innovation emerged in the form of Enron Online, a digital marketplace designed to revolutionize energy trading. This initiative represented an ambitious leap into the future, providing a platform for real-time transactions that promised efficiency and transparency. The online exchange facilitated the buying and selling of various energy products, creating a new paradigm for trading that quickly garnered attention. Enron Online's introduction was met with enthusiasm, as it allowed participants to execute trades with unprecedented speed and convenience. This digital approach attracted a wide array of clients, including utilities and large corporations, eager to embrace the modernity of the platform. The company positioned itself as a leader in technological advancements, further solidifying its reputation. Behind the scenes, however, the rapid success of this digital marketplace began to mask underlying issues. Complex financial instruments and intricate accounting practices were employed to obscure the true state of the company's finances. In this environment, transparency became increasingly compromised as aggressive tactics took precedence. Although the platform flourished, it was entwined with a culture that prioritized short-term gains over sustainable practices. The digital gains, once a symbol of innovation, began to reflect a precarious balance between genuine advancement and deceptive practices, the allure of Enron Online. The influence of deregulation profoundly altered the landscape of the energy sector. This shift, initiated in the mid-1990s, dismantled long-standing regulatory frameworks that once governed pricing and market entry. As barriers fell, it created an environment ripe for innovation and competition. Companies began to vie for market share with an aggressive fervor, often prioritizing profit over ethical considerations. In this context, the emergence of entities like Enron became emblematic of the era's ethos. Strategic maneuvers allowed the company to position itself as a leader, embracing the spirit of deregulated markets to expand its reach. Risk-taking became almost a hallmark of corporate culture, with a focus on speculative ventures and financial engineering. The interplay of deregulation and corporate ambition resulted in a turbulent market environment. Unchecked, it fostered practices that blurred the lines of legality and morality. Competition grew fierce as companies sought to maximize profits with little regard for transparency. As the energy sector evolved, the illusion of stability masked the underlying vulnerabilities. The insatiable pursuit of wealth and power led to an intricate web of transactions, often obscured from regulatory scrutiny. It was within this framework that the eventual collapse of Enron unfolded, illuminating the darker consequences of unregulated capitalism. The repercussions of these decisions extended far beyond the company, impacting investors and communities alike. The acquisition of Portland General Electric represented a pivotal moment in the company's strategy, aimed at diversifying its portfolio and enhancing revenue streams. This regional utility, with its established customer base and stable cash flow, appeared to be a perfect fit for ambitious expansion efforts. Executives viewed it as an opportunity to solidify their standing in the energy sector, presenting the acquisition as a strategic growth move that would benefit shareholders. Financial projections indicated substantial returns, showcasing the potential for increased profits. This alignment with the company's vision was welcomed by investors who were eager for signs of robust growth amid a rapidly evolving market. The integration of Portland General Electric was framed as a seamless transition, promising operational efficiencies and synergies that would bolster overall performance. As time passed, underlying issues began to surface. The complexities of merging two distinct corporate cultures posed challenges that were underestimated. Internal resistance, regulatory scrutiny, and market volatility added layers of difficulty. Over time, the anticipated benefits faded, revealing the limitations of this approach. The once promising acquisition soon became a burden, straining resources and diverting focus from core business operations. What began as a move towards diversification? The creation of special-purpose entities marked a significant turning point in the story of this fading company. These entities were designed ostensibly to isolate financial risk and achieve more favorable accounting treatment. By shifting debt off their balance sheet, executives aimed to present a facade of stability and profitability. These structures, initially conceived as a financial innovation, gradually morphed into instruments of deception. Through meticulous management of these entities, they obscured the true financial state of the company. This region, once bustling with ambitious professionals and bold ideas, became a labyrinth of complex financial arrangements, where transparency was sacrificed for the illusion of success. The overwhelming intricacies of these SPEs allowed for a distorted view of earnings, leading investors and analysts to perceive growth where there was none. On the surface, these maneuvers appeared to serve a legitimate business purpose. Yet, beneath the veneer, a troubling reality took shape. As these entities proliferated, they accumulated significant liabilities that would. The aftermath of these decisions left a stark reminder of the consequences of prioritizing short-term gains over ethical practices, marking a pivotal moment in corporate governance. The impact of corporate culture reverberated throughout this region, creating an environment defined by aggressive competition and a relentless pursuit of profit. Known internally as the Enron way, this ethos fostered a sense of invincibility among employees, reinforcing the belief that success justified any means employed to achieve it. It became a breeding ground for risk-taking, encouraging individuals to prioritize personal advancement over the collective well-being of the organization. This culture cultivated an insular atmosphere where dissenting voices were often silenced and ethical concerns were dismissed as obstacles to progress. Leadership exemplified a charismatic but the erosion of integrity within this institution led to a pervasive atmosphere of mistrust, not only among employees but also with investors and stakeholders. Trust, once a cornerstone of business relationships, began to crumble under the weight of deceit. The false narratives propagated to maintain market confidence resulted in profound disillusionment. As the dust settled, the legacy of the Enron way emerged as a cautionary tale, illuminating the dangers inherent in a culture that prioritizes profit over principle. The failures of corporate governance at Enron stand as a stark reminder of the critical role that oversight plays in business integrity. The board of directors, entrusted with the responsibility of safeguarding shareholder interests, became complicit in the very deceit that led to the company's demise. A lack of independence and accountability allowed unethical practices to flourish, enabling executives to manipulate financial statements with impunity. This environment of complacency fostered a culture where transparency was sacrificed for short-term gains. Board members often lacked the requisite expertise to question the complex financial instruments that obscured the company's true state. The reliance on external auditors further compounded the issue, as they too failed to uphold their duty of due diligence, prioritizing relationships over rigorous scrutiny. As the facade crumbled, it became evident that the governance structure was fundamentally flawed. The absence of checks and balances permitted reckless behavior, leading to catastrophic financial consequences. Investors, once confident in their holdings, were left grappling with a staggering loss of trust. In the aftermath, the repercussions extended beyond mere financial ruin, reshaping regulatory landscapes. New legislation emerged, aimed at reinforcing corporate governance and ethical standards. The Enron scandal remains a pivotal moment, underscoring the necessity for vigilant oversight and the inherent dangers of neglecting this vital aspect of corporate responsibility. The relationship with Arthur Andersen reveals a complex interplay of trust and complicity. This once revered auditing firm, established in 1808, became entwined with Enron, providing not only auditing services but also consulting. As financial practices grew increasingly opaque, it was Andersen's duty to ensure transparency, yet it faltered in this responsibility. This alliance fostered an environment where internal controls weakened, allowing questionable accounting practices to flourish unchecked. The auditors became enablers, their oversight diminished by a desire to maintain lucrative consulting contracts. This financial entanglement blurred the lines between accountability and allegiance, leading to a pervasive culture of deception. The firm's complicity in Enron's elaborate schemes resulted in a catastrophic breakdown of ethical standards. The intricate web of financial misrepresentation became more intricate, supported by the very auditors tasked with safeguarding the integrity of financial reporting. As this relationship deteriorated, it became evident that Andersen was not merely a passive observer, but an active participant in the unraveling narrative of greed. The eventual collapse of both Enron and Arthur Andersen exemplified the profound consequences of prioritizing profit over principle. Legal repercussions followed, leading to the dissolution of the auditing firm, highlighting the critical importance of maintaining ethical boundaries within the corporate landscape. This decline serves as a cautionary tale for future generations navigating the complexities of corporate governance. The methods employed to obscure true financial health were diverse, yet singularly focused on maintaining an illusion of prosperity. Off-balance sheet financing became a cornerstone of this strategy, allowing it to conceal extensive debts while presenting a facade of robust earnings. Special-purpose entities played a crucial role in this deception, providing a means to transfer liabilities away from the primary balance sheet. This created a misleading narrative that captivated investors and analysts alike. By utilizing these entities, it was possible to present a picture of stability and growth that bore little resemblance to reality. Shareholders, entranced by the apparent success, remained unaware of the lurking vulnerabilities. These tactics fostered a culture of pervasive risk, where the true financial state was obscured behind layers of complex financial instruments. The allure of inflated stock prices masked the growing instability, creating an environment ripe for eventual collapse. As the corporate structure unraveled, the revelation of hidden debts sent shockwaves through the financial community. Trust, once abundant, dissolved rapidly in the wake of these disclosures. It became evident that the strategies designed to protect the company had instead rendered it vulnerable to scrutiny and crisis. The aftermath of these decisions left a stark reminder of the consequences inherent in prioritizing short-term gains over transparent governance. Rising stock prices served as a deceptive indicator, masking the underlying turmoil within the organization. Investors, driven by optimism and a hunger for profit, poured capital into shares, believing in the narrative crafted by executives. This influx of funds led to inflated valuations, creating a false sense of security that permeated the market. Confidence surged as financial analysts praised the innovative strategies and growth forecasts presented by the corporation. In this environment, the soaring stock prices became a self-reinforcing cycle, attracting even more investment. The allure of potential returns clouded judgment as stakeholders overlooked troubling signs. Reports of irregular accounting practices and inflated earnings were dismissed or minimized in the face of rising share values. This blind faith in the company's trajectory masked the deep-seated issues festering beneath the surface. The corporate culture celebrated aggressive growth, further entrenching the belief that success was an unassailable reality. Executives, buoyed by their performance in the stock market, continued to take risks that. The excesses of the executives were mirrored by the inflated predictions of analysts, who played a crucial role in sustaining the illusion of stability and growth. Wall Street's endorsement lent an air of legitimacy to the company, with reports often praising its innovative approaches and promising future. These analysts, driven by commission and the need to maintain relationships with powerful firms, overlooked the signs of trouble that marred the company's financial statements. This environment cultivated a culture of complacency, where skepticism was often dismissed as unwarranted negativity. They projected confidence, often amplifying the company's narrative of success, reinforcing the belief that Enron was a pioneering force within the energy sector. The glossy reports and optimistic forecasts created a feedback loop, where rising stock prices further emboldened both executives and analysts. In this region, a facade of invulnerability developed, blinding many to the underlying vulnerabilities that were beginning to emerge. As financial statements were manipulated, analysts chose to focus on the superficial allure of reported earnings rather than delve deeper into the complexities of the company's operations. This negligence, coupled with a relentless pursuit of profit, fostered an environment where critical thinking was all but abandoned. The consequences of this complicity would reveal themselves through financial statements that bore little resemblance to reality. These documents, crafted with precision, presented an image of strength and profitability that belied the underlying truth. They depicted a thriving entity, buoyed by inflated revenue figures and off-balance sheet partnerships designed to obscure liabilities. Such practices manipulated perceptions, creating an illusion of stability and growth. The intricate web of misleading reports ensnared investors, analysts, and regulators alike. It was a facade, meticulously constructed to maintain confidence in a failing enterprise. Assets were often overstated, while losses were deftly concealed beneath layers of accounting complexity. This region of corporate finance became a case study in deception, where numbers were not merely figures but tools for manipulation. As scrutiny intensified, the narrative began to unravel. Whistleblowers emerged, exposing the discrepancies that lay beneath the polished surface. The realization of these fraudulent practices sent ripples throughout the financial world, prompting a collapse that shocked the market. Trust, once a cornerstone of investment, eroded swiftly. The once celebrated company transformed into a cautionary tale, illustrating the perilous intersection of greed and deception within the corporate landscape. These misleading reports remain a stark reminder of the fragility of financial integrity. Doubts began to surface within the financial community. Analysts, initially captivated by the meteoric rise of this entity, started to scrutinize the numbers presented. Discrepancies in accounting practices drew attention, leading to a growing unease among investors. The glimmer of confidence began to fade, overshadowed by an atmosphere thick with skepticism. In boardrooms and conference calls, questions lingered like a storm cloud, casting shadows over previously confident projections. Some analysts pointed to irregularities in cash flow statements, suggesting that the company was not as robust as it claimed. They expressed concern over the complexity of its financial instruments, which seemed designed to obscure rather than clarify. Whispers of potential impropriety echoed through investment circles, with a few brave voices warning of impending doom. The once admired leadership faced increasing scrutiny, as their public reassurances began to ring hollow. Despite the bright facade, a growing number of observers sensed that something was amiss. In this region of high stakes and whispered doubts, reports surfaced detailing the disconnect between actual performance and reported results. Trust eroded gradually, like the slow but inevitable chipping away of stone. The illusion of unassailable growth cracked, leading to an unfolding narrative that would. The unfolding narrative that would. In the midst of a culture steeped in secrecy and ambition, Watkins discovered discrepancies that indicated a divergence from ethical practices. These revelations, initially whispered among colleagues, began to gain momentum. The documents she compiled detailed an intricate web of misleading accounting practices designed to inflate profits and mask liabilities. Watkins' decision to confront leadership marked a pivotal moment. Her memo, addressed to then-CEO Kenneth Lay, articulated grave concerns about the financial statements that bore little resemblance to reality. Rather than a straightforward acknowledgement, the response from the upper echelons was one of deflection and denial, further entrenching the systemic issues that plagued the organization. With time, the weight of her disclosures became impossible to ignore. The internal struggle between ambition and integrity would culminate in a broader reckoning, the meticulous unraveling of trust. The impact of the California energy crisis, which unfolded in the early years of the 21st century, revealed an unsettling landscape of manipulation and greed. This region, long considered a hub of innovation and economic might, soon became a backdrop for Enron's dubious strategies. As blackouts plagued cities and energy prices soared, the company's actions were exposed in stark detail. They orchestrated a series of market manipulations aimed at maximizing profit while leaving consumers in a vulnerable state. By exploiting deregulation, it created artificial shortages, leading to inflated prices that strained the budgets of countless households. The chaos in the energy market served as a grim reflection of corporate irresponsibility, exposing the gaps in oversight and regulation that should have protected the public. Financial records and internal communications later unearthed a troubling reality, a culture prioritizing profit over ethical considerations. This climate fostered a sense of detachment from the consequences of their actions. The revelations did not merely tarnish the reputation of the company, they also raised critical questions about the integrity of the entire energy sector. Losses mounted as public trust eroded, and the once thriving entity became synonymous with corporate malfeasance. The aftermath left a landscape littered with regulatory changes, but the shadow of deception lingered long after the crisis subsided. The decline of stock prices marked a pivotal moment in the unraveling of a once mighty corporation. Investors, once confident in the promises of exponential growth, began to sense an insidious instability. The initial whispers of doubt transformed into a cacophony of sell orders, leading to a steep descent in valuation. This region, once populated by ambitious executives and soaring projections, now bore witness to frantic calls and the unsettling silence of sinking fortunes. The stock, which had peaked at approximately $90 per share, withered under the weight of exposed discrepancies and overvaluation. The plummet was not merely financial, it shattered the illusion of invincibility that had cloaked the organization. Employees watched, helpless, as their retirement savings evaporated overnight, a stark reminder of the fragility of trust. Shareholders, caught in the web of misleading financial statements, faced mounting losses. The boardroom discussions, which had once been filled with bravado, shifted to hushed tones of concern as the reality of the situation settled in. Analysts recalibrated their forecasts, and the media scrutinized every misstep, unraveling the carefully constructed facade. With stock prices spiraling downward, the exodus of investors accelerated. The company's reputation, built on a foundation of ambition and deceit, crumbled under the relentless scrutiny, heralding an end that many had deemed unimaginable. The emergence of stockholder lawsuits marked a pivotal moment in the aftermath of this corporate collapse. With the revelation of fraudulent practices, countless investors found themselves ensnared in a web of financial loss. Legal representatives swiftly mobilized, gathering evidence against the company and its executives, whose actions had been characterized by a profound betrayal of trust. The once vibrant stock, once a beacon of innovation, began its descent into irrelevance, leaving a trail of shattered dreams. In this region, law firms flourished as they pursued claims on behalf of affected parties. The atmosphere was thick with tension as shareholders sought justice for the years of misrepresentation. Documents were meticulously examined and testimonies collected, unraveling the intricate lies that had led to inflated stock prices. Each case highlighted the fragility of investor confidence, a sentiment that would take years to rebuild. As settlements were reached, the financial repercussions were significant. Enron's executives faced severe penalties, with some sentenced to prison, while the company itself became a cautionary tale in business ethics. The legal landscape shifted, prompting regulatory reform aimed at preventing similar failures in the future. This decline resonated deeply within the financial sector, as trust eroded and scrutiny intensified, emphasizing the necessity of transparency and accountability in corporate governance. The unfolding events surrounding the company drew extensive media attention, creating a lens through which the public observed its rapid disintegration. Coverage began with a focus on its innovative business practices and the seemingly unassailable profitability that characterized its operations. As the truth emerged, the narrative shifted drastically, revealing a complex web of deception and manipulation. It was no longer a story of triumph, but rather a cautionary tale of hubris. Investigative reporting played a crucial role in exposing the discrepancies within financial statements and the fraudulent accounting practices that had masked the company's true condition. Journalists delved into the intricate relationships between executives, auditors, and financial analysts. Each revelation led to deeper scrutiny, illuminating the extent of the misleading tactics employed to maintain an illusion of success. The media's relentless pursuit of the story brought to light not just the failings of the company, but also the broader implications for the industry. Analysts began to question the integrity of other corporations, prompting discussions around regulatory reform. The decline of this once revered entity became emblematic of a larger crisis of confidence as the media meticulously documented the fallout. Thousands of employees lost their jobs, and investors faced significant losses. The landscape shifted, forever altered by the lessons learned during this period of profound corporate failure. This scrutiny unveiled a complex web of financial practices shrouded in deception. Investigators delved into the intricate dealings that characterized the company's operations, examining the use of special-purpose entities and mark-to-market accounting. These tactics, initially intended to present a facade of profitability, soon became the foundation of a crumbling facade. Amidst the growing unease, it became apparent that the discrepancies extended far beyond simple accounting errors. A culture of greed had permeated the organization, driving executives to prioritize personal gain over ethical considerations. The once celebrated leadership faced intense scrutiny as the Securities and Exchange Commission initiated its investigation, aiming to uncover the truth behind the misleading financial statements. This examination not only focused on the financial practices, but also on the compliance structures that had been established. Internal controls, designed to ensure transparency and accountability, were found lacking, revealing a profound neglect for regulatory obligations. The absence of a robust ethical framework allowed misconduct to flourish unchecked. As the investigation unfolded, the disintegration of trust became palpable. Stakeholders, previously assured of the company's strength, confronted the reality of significant losses and shattered reputations. The findings not only highlighted the failures of Enron, but also served as a cautionary tale, echoing throughout the corporate world as the ramifications of unchecked ambition and deception began to reveal themselves. The filing for bankruptcy marked a pivotal moment in corporate history as Enron sought refuge under the protective umbrella of Chapter 11. This legal procedure initiated a complex unwinding of corporate structures and financial obligations, revealing the extensive web of deceit that had ensnared investors, employees, and stakeholders alike. As the process unfolded, it became apparent that the once illustrious company was laden with more than $30 billion in liabilities, a staggering figure that encapsulated the scale of its financial mismanagement. The implications were profound, sending ripples through the markets and instigating a reevaluation of regulatory frameworks governing corporate behavior. Thousands of employees faced job losses, their futures abruptly altered as the foundation of their livelihoods crumbled. Retirement savings, heavily invested in the company's stock, evaporated almost overnight, leaving many to grapple with financial ruin. The bankruptcy proceedings also initiated a series of investigations, drawing in regulatory agencies and prompting a nationwide discourse on corporate ethics and accountability. Legal battles ensued, prolonging the suffering of those who had placed their trust in the organization. This tumultuous period illuminated the fragility of corporate reputation and the dire consequences of prioritizing short-term gains over long-term integrity. The fallout from Enron's collapse continued to influence corporate governance, with reforms emerging in an effort to restore confidence in the financial landscape. The Enron bankruptcy marked a pivotal moment in American corporate history, representing the largest such event in the nation's past. This entity, once lauded for its innovative approaches to business and its seemingly limitless potential, faced its demise in December of 2001. Misleading financial statements and accounting manipulations executed through complex partnerships. This unraveling brought significant attention to the intricacies of corporate financial practices. Thousands of employees found themselves facing uncertainty, their livelihoods tied to a business that had crumbled under the weight of its own deception. Investors, once eager to pour capital into the promising firm, watched helplessly as their investments evaporated, contributing to an atmosphere of distrust toward corporate America. The repercussions of this monumental bankruptcy extended far beyond the immediate financial losses. It exposed systemic vulnerabilities within the accounting industry, prompting calls for regulatory reform. The public's response was a mixture of disbelief and outrage as revelations surfaced about the extent of the mismanagement and ethical lapses. This event catalyzed a shift in the corporate landscape, leading to the establishment of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, intended to bolster transparency and accountability. The echoes of this failure still resonate in contemporary discussions of corporate ethics and governance, serving as a reminder of the potential consequences of unchecked ambition. Retirement accounts dwindled to mere shadows of their former promise, leaving many employees grappling with financial insecurity. Once confident in their future, individuals found their savings devastated, erased by decisions made far from their reach. The once secure nest eggs, built over years of dedication, transformed into a harsh reminder of betrayal. These workers, who had invested their trust in a system that had. Job loss compounded the distress, with thousands abruptly displaced. The corporate structure, once a pillar of stability, crumbled, leaving many without the means to support their families. This region, once bustling with the fervor of ambition and innovation, now bore the weight of despair. Friends and colleagues, once united in purpose, suddenly became victims of a collective downfall. The aftermath of this collapse rippled through communities, disrupting the lives of those who had dedicated their careers to the company. The emotional toll was profound, as individuals struggled to navigate the uncertainty ahead. The sense of loyalty felt towards a now-vanished entity turned bitter. Trust eroded, replaced by disillusionment, as those affected sought new opportunities in an unforgiving job market. In the quiet aftermath, the fading company left behind not just financial ruin, but a legacy of broken dreams and shattered aspirations. Investors, once hopeful and eager, found themselves engulfed in waves of disbelief and anger. The revelation of deceptive practices shattered the foundation of trust that had taken years to build. This region, known for its vibrant financial landscape, became a stage for public outrage and discontent. As news of the company's misdeeds spread, countless individuals who had invested their savings watched helplessly as their financial futures crumbled. The fallout extended beyond mere monetary loss. It transformed the perception of corporate integrity. Individuals began to question the very systems designed for oversight and accountability. The aftermath saw a palpable shift in investor sentiment, with many retreating from the marketplace, disillusioned by the betrayal they had experienced. The confidence in corporate governance diminished, casting a long shadow over other enterprises that had previously enjoyed robust support. Regulatory bodies were compelled to respond to this crisis. New measures aimed at enhancing transparency emerged, seeking to reassure wary investors. This environment of skepticism lingered, as many remained cautious, wary of narratives that seemed too good to be true. Trust, once a vital currency in business, now lay in tatters, with individuals grappling to navigate a landscape forever altered by the revelations surrounding this fading giant. The repercussions of such disillusionment would echo throughout the financial world for years to come. The decline of this once mighty entity reshaped the energy market in profound and lasting ways. The immediate aftermath saw a staggering loss of trust as stakeholders reevaluated their relationships with power suppliers across the board. Investors fled from the energy sector, spooked by the growing uncertainty and skepticism that permeated the landscape. Companies that once thrived in this region now faced heightened scrutiny, with investors demanding greater transparency and accountability. Regulatory bodies sprang into action, tightening oversight in response to the chaos. New policies emerged, aimed at preventing similar collapses, as legislators sought to restore confidence within the market. The focus shifted toward enforcing ethical practices, thereby attempting to rebuild what had been irrevocably damaged. Many firms struggled to adapt to these new demands, revealing vulnerabilities that had long been concealed beneath layers of complexity. In the wake of Enron's disintegration, competitors found themselves grappling with a shifting paradigm. Prices fluctuated wildly as market participants recalibrated their expectations and strategies. The once stable landscape was transformed, with many companies forced into mergers or acquisitions to remain viable. Gradually, the energy sector began to stabilize, but not without leaving an indelible mark on the perception of corporate integrity. The legacy of Enron served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the consequences that could arise from unchecked ambition and deception. The federal government's response to the unraveling of this corporate giant marked a significant turning point in the landscape of business ethics and regulation. In the aftermath, regulators faced mounting pressure to restore public trust. Actions taken included the introduction of more stringent oversight mechanisms and the establishment of new regulatory bodies aimed at preventing similar failures in the future. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act emerged as a direct response to the Enron scandal, imposing stricter requirements on financial disclosures and fostering a culture of transparency. This legislation mandated that executives certify the accuracy of financial statements, thus holding them personally accountable for corporate malfeasance. Such measures aimed to create a more fortified framework within which companies would operate, discouraging the kind of fraudulent behavior that had led to Enron's collapse. In this climate of reform, the Securities and Exchange Commission intensified its scrutiny of corporate practices, conducting thorough investigations into accounting irregularities and conflicts of interest. Public confidence in the financial markets remained fragile, necessitating ongoing vigilance against unethical conduct. Amidst these developments, the concept of corporate governance gained prominence, advocating for practices that align the interests of shareholders with those of management. The fallout from the Enron scandal extended far beyond the corporation itself, casting a long shadow over Arthur Andersen. Once heralded as one of the 5 largest accounting firms in the world, its reputation faced irreversible damage. This region became a graveyard for trust, as clients and stakeholders reevaluated their associations with the firm. The meticulous oversight that had defined its operations was suddenly called into question, revealing a culture that prioritized profit over integrity. The firm found itself embroiled in legal battles, with investigations exposing questionable practices and a reluctance to uphold ethical standards. Once regarded as a bastion of financial expertise, this institution crumbled under the weight of accusations, leading to a swift and complete dissolution. Employees who had dedicated their careers to the firm watched as their professional lives unraveled, resulting in thousands of job losses. Courtrooms became the new arenas for the firm's legacy, with verdicts serving as stark reminders of its fall from grace. Public confidence dwindled, with former clients distancing themselves from the tarnished name. In the end, Arthur Andersen transitioned from a symbol of excellence to an example of how the pursuit of unchecked ambition can lead to devastating consequences. The lessons learned from this tragedy continue to resonate in the realms of corporate governance and ethical accountability. The aftermath of the corporate failure brought forth a wave of legal proceedings that enveloped the key executives. These individuals, once hailed as visionaries, found themselves embroiled in a complex web of trials. The scrutiny intensified as investigators meticulously examined the extent of the deception. Documents were unearthed, revealing a calculated manipulation of financial statements that obscured the true state of the company. High-profile trials transformed into a spectacle, drawing public interest and media attention. Testimonies unfolded, exposing the internal culture that prioritized profit over integrity. The executives, defending their actions, attributed their decisions to an environment rife with pressure and ambition. As the proceedings advanced, it became evident that accountability would not be easily evaded. Sentences were handed down, ranging from substantial fines to lengthy prison terms. The consequences reverberated beyond individual culpability, casting a long shadow over the corporate landscape. Corporate America reassessed its practices in light of this failure, prompting a reevaluation of ethical standards. The fallout served as a cautionary tale, urging businesses to prioritize transparency and ethical governance. Among the ruins of Enron, the legal ramifications emerged as a critical chapter, illustrating the vulnerabilities inherent in unchecked ambition and deception. The enduring impact on corporate practices continues to shape the dialogue surrounding ethics in business. The trial of Jeffrey Skilling marked a significant moment in the unfolding narrative of corporate malfeasance. As the former CEO of Enron, he faced an array of charges, including conspiracy, securities fraud, and insider trading. The evidence presented was extensive, detailing a culture steeped in deceit, where financial statements were manipulated to create an illusion of solvency and growth. Prosecutors meticulously outlined the methods employed to mislead investors, emphasizing how the company's leaders prioritized personal gain over ethical responsibility. Testimonies from former colleagues painted a portrait of a highly competitive environment, one where dissent was often silenced in favor of maintaining a facade of success. Throughout the proceedings, the courtroom echoed with discussions of complex financial instruments and accounting practices that obscured the truth. Skilling's defense centered on the argument that he acted within the bounds of legality, asserting that the practices in question were standard within the industry. The trial of Kenneth Lay unfolded against the backdrop of a company unraveled by deceit. Once revered as a visionary leader, Lay found himself in the crosshairs of the legal system, facing charges of conspiracy and fraud. This transformation marked a stark contrast to his previous standing in the corporate world. Evidence presented during the trial painted a harrowing picture of a leader who had fostered an environment of misrepresentation and financial manipulation. Prosecutors meticulously detailed how Lay had cultivated a culture that prioritized profits at any cost. The company's financial statements, once perceived as robust indicators of growth, were revealed to be mere facades, obscuring deep-rooted issues. Lay's defense attempted to distance him from the decisions made by others within the organization, arguing that he was misled by subordinates. This assertion, however, struggled to resonate in the courtroom. As the trial progressed, the weight of testimony from former colleagues and employees added to the mounting evidence against him. They described a relentless pursuit of market dominance that disregarded ethical considerations. The conviction of Lay, once a symbol of corporate success, underscored the consequences of unchecked ambition. The once flourishing company now lay in ruins, a testament to the fragility of trust in corporate governance and the profound impact of individual decisions within the larger corporate framework. Corporate ethics, often regarded as a foundational pillar of sustainable business practices, found itself spotlighted in the aftermath of the Enron debacle. The collapse served as a sobering reminder of the consequences that arise when ethical standards erode. In this context, the actions of individuals within the organization illustrated how short-term gains can eclipse long-term integrity. The culture fostered within these walls prioritized profit over principle, leading to decisions that, as the crisis unfolded, it became evident that a lack of transparency and accountability bred an environment ripe for deception. Executives engaged in practices that misrepresented financial health, creating an illusion of success that drew in investors and stakeholders. This concealment of truth not only deceived those outside the organization, but also fostered a sense of complacency among employees, who became entangled in the web of unethical behavior. In the wake of this collapse, regulatory bodies reevaluated the frameworks governing corporate conduct. The enactment of legislation aimed at bolstering ethical standards emerged as a direct response to the failures witnessed. These measures sought to ensure that future enterprises would prioritize ethical considerations, emphasizing the importance of integrity and transparency. The lessons drawn from this significant chapter in corporate history continue to resonate within boardrooms and business schools, shaping the future of corporate governance. The aftermath of the Enron scandal catalyzed a profound shift in regulatory frameworks. This event exposed systemic weaknesses within the existing oversight mechanisms, revealing how the interplay of greed and deception could distort corporate operations. As a result, legislative bodies took immediate action. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act emerged as a direct response, mandating stricter accountability measures for financial reporting. In this transformed landscape, corporations now faced enhanced scrutiny. Auditors were bound by new standards, ensuring that the financial statements presented to stakeholders reflected a more accurate portrayal of the company's condition. The act also instituted whistleblower protections, encouraging employees to report unethical practices without the fear of retaliation. This fostered an environment where accountability became paramount. Regulatory agencies, once viewed as passive observers, now embraced a more proactive stance. The Securities and Exchange Commission, among others, increased enforcement efforts, ensuring compliance with the newly established rules. These changes were not merely superficial, they sought to restore public trust in financial markets. As the corporate world adjusted to these new realities, a cultural shift began to take root. Ethical considerations gained prominence within corporate missions, with many organizations adopting codes of conduct designed to promote integrity. The era marked a significant departure from the unchecked ambition that characterized the late 20th century, highlighting the enduring impact of Enron's failure on corporate governance. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act emerged as a legislative response to the rampant corporate fraud that had come to light. This landmark legislation introduced a series of reforms aimed at enhancing corporate accountability and protecting investors from deceptive practices. It imposed stricter regulations on financial reporting and auditing, reflecting a collective desire for transparency in business operations. Organizations now faced heightened scrutiny regarding their financial statements and the integrity of their internal controls. Regulatory bodies were empowered to oversee compliance, ensuring that companies adhered to the new standards. Mandated certifications from executives regarding the accuracy of financial reports became a cornerstone of this initiative, signifying a shift in the responsibilities of corporate leaders. Accountability was no longer optional. It was embedded in the fabric of corporate culture. The act also instituted severe penalties for executives who engaged in fraudulent activities. This legal framework aimed to deter misconduct by creating a palpable risk for those who might consider exploiting loopholes for personal gain. These measures transformed the landscape of corporate governance, fostering an environment where ethical practices were prioritized. In the wake of this legislation, many organizations undertook significant restructuring to align with the new requirements. The impact of this act resonated throughout the corporate world, underscoring a commitment to rebuilding trust in the wake of a profound crisis. The cultural legacy of this profound crisis offers a stark examination of business ethics. Enron, once a beacon of innovation and growth, transformed into a case study reflecting the perils of unchecked ambition. This region of corporate history reveals how the allure of profits can obscure ethical considerations. The company's rapid ascent was marked by aggressive tactics, and as the facade of prosperity crumbled, it became evident that many had prioritized personal gain over responsibility. This environment fostered a culture where transparency was overshadowed by deception. Employees, incentivized to meet unrealistic targets, often embraced unethical practices, leading to widespread complicity. The resulting scandal prompted significant scrutiny of corporate governance, highlighting the necessity of ethical frameworks. Many organizations began to reassess their internal policies, recognizing that trust is foundational to sustainability. In the aftermath, educational institutions integrated Enron's failures into business curricula. It served as a catalyst for discussions surrounding corporate responsibility, ethical decision-making, and the importance of accountability. The story of Enron has permeated the collective consciousness of the business community, serving as a cautionary tale. This legacy endures, illustrating the intricate balance between ambition and ethics, and the consequences that arise when this balance is disrupted. The lessons learned from its decline continue to shape corporate policies and ethical standards in contemporary practices. The global landscape of business practices underwent a profound transformation in the wake of its collapse. This event illuminated the vulnerabilities inherent in corporate governance, prompting nations to reevaluate their regulatory frameworks. Countries previously perceived as havens for questionable practices began to tighten oversight, recognizing the need for transparency and accountability. Emerging economies took note, adapting their own legal structures to foster trust among investors. The repercussions reached far beyond American borders, influencing international financial institutions and encouraging the adoption of stricter compliance measures. The fallout became a catalyst for discussions on corporate ethics, leading to the establishment of guidelines that prioritize integrity over profit. In this shifting environment, stakeholders increasingly demanded ethical conduct from corporations. The demand for corporate social responsibility grew, shaping the expectations of consumers, investors, and regulators alike. This paradigm shift in expectations contributed to a new era where businesses are scrutinized not only for their financial performance, but also for their impact on society and the environment. These developments prompted multinational companies to reassess their operational strategies, ensuring alignment with evolving global standards. As a result, a culture of vigilance emerged, with an emphasis on fostering ethical leadership and sustainable practices. The resonance of Enron's legacy can still be sensed, echoing through the corridors of corporate decision-making at every level. The Enron documentary serves as a lens through which the intricacies of ambition and deceit are examined. It captures the meteoric rise of a company that was once heralded as a paragon of innovation. This fleeting glory, however, masked the underlying currents of manipulation and greed that. The film meticulously details the calculated choices made by executives, revealing an intricate web of accounting practices designed to obscure the truth. This illusion of success captivated investors, employees, and the public alike, contributing to a sense of invincibility surrounding the corporation. Yet beneath the surface, cracks began to emerge, exposing the fragility of a system predicated on dishonesty. As the narrative unfolds, the human cost of this corporate deceit becomes evident. Employees, once proud to be associated with such an acclaimed entity, faced job losses and shattered livelihoods when the facade crumbled. The documentary poignantly illustrates the consequences of misplaced trust, echoing the broader implications for corporate governance and regulatory frameworks. Through interviews and archival footage, the film encapsulates the essence of a moment that reshaped the business landscape, leaving lasting lessons on integrity and accountability. The aftermath of the events surrounding the company catalyzed significant changes in policy regarding whistleblower protections. Legislative bodies recognized the vulnerabilities faced by individuals who dared to expose misconduct within large organizations. This recognition led to a substantial reevaluation of existing laws, aimed at safeguarding those who risk their careers to reveal unethical practices. The introduction of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 marked a pivotal moment. This legislation established new standards for all public company boards, as well as accounting firms. It included provisions designed to protect whistleblowers from retaliation, ensuring that those who reported fraudulent activities could do so without fear of losing their jobs or facing harassment. These protective measures aim to foster an environment conducive to transparency and ethical behavior. In this region of corporate governance, the influence of the company extended beyond immediate repercussions. It prompted a broader conversation about the ethical responsibilities of corporations and their executives. The evolving landscape demanded a reassessment of not only how businesses operated, but also how society viewed accountability within the corporate sphere. The lasting impact of these changes continues to resonate, shaping the landscape of corporate ethics and accountability. The lessons learned from this event serve as a cautionary tale, reminding stakeholders of the importance of vigilance and integrity in the pursuit of success. The impact on corporate America was profound, reverberating through boardrooms and influencing regulations. An atmosphere of distrust settled over the financial landscape. This region, once characterized by unbridled ambition, began to reassess its core values. A shift in business practices became evident as companies sought to distance themselves from the shadow of scandal. In the wake of Enron's collapse, stakeholders demanded transparency. The need for accountability took precedence, leading to the implementation of stricter regulations such as the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This legislation aimed to protect investors from fraudulent financial reporting and established a new paradigm for corporate governance. It mandated more rigorous auditing practices and increased the responsibilities of executives. These reforms, while necessary, also ignited a wave of compliance-driven cultures. Organizations diverted resources to ensure adherence to new guidelines, often at the expense of innovation. A cautious approach replaced the once daring entrepreneurial spirit that had characterized many firms. The fear of repercussions overshadowed the pursuit of aggressive growth strategies. This transition unfolded gradually, as companies learned to navigate the delicate balance between risk and responsibility. The fading company ethos, rooted in trust and ethical conduct, started to emerge alongside a newfound skepticism among investors. Corporate America, reshaped by this significant event, embarked on a journey toward sustainable practices and ethical accountability. The Enron brand, once synonymous with innovation and progress, gradually shifted from a symbol of ambition to one of infamy. Initially celebrated for its groundbreaking approach to energy trading and its ambitious ventures into various sectors, it became a beacon for aspiring companies. The executives portrayed a vision of limitless growth and creativity, presenting an image of a company that was redefining the landscape of energy and investment. With the rise of the dot-com boom, this entity positioned itself at the forefront of a rapidly changing economy, promising unprecedented returns and transforming the corporate culture into one of aggressive competition. Yet, beneath the polished exterior, a different narrative unfolded. Financial practices veiled in complexity obscured the truth, leading to an environment where deception thrived. As the facade began to crumble, stakeholders grappled with the stark realities of mismanagement and ethical breaches. The vibrant energy of corporate optimism gave way to a chilling silence, leaving behind the remnants of a once great institution. Public trust eroded as the revelations of accounting fraud and corporate malfeasance surfaced, illustrating the perils of unchecked ambition. This transition from revered innovator to a cautionary tale serves as a sobering reminder of the fragile nature of corporate reputation and the enduring consequences of greed. The emergence of social media transformed the landscape of corporate communication and public perception. Instantaneous sharing of information allowed individuals to disseminate news about corporate misconduct with unprecedented speed. During the Enron scandal, this new medium became a critical tool for whistleblowers and activists who could bypass traditional news outlets to reach a wide audience directly. Trust in established institutions began to erode as narratives shifted from carefully curated corporate images to raw, unfiltered accounts of deceit. Transparency became paramount in a world where information could be shared instantaneously. The impact of this shift was profound. It forced companies to reconsider their public relations strategies. Enron's downfall highlighted the vulnerability of even the most powerful corporations to the consequences of online discourse. Conversations about ethics and accountability gained traction in the digital sphere, reshaping consumer expectations and behaviors. Negative sentiments spread rapidly, and public sentiment could shift overnight. With every tweet, post, and share, perceptions of corporate integrity were influenced, reinforcing a collective wariness. This erosion of trust extended beyond Enron, as it became increasingly clear that the illusion of security in corporate governance had been shattered. The aftermath of this transformation revealed a landscape where consumers demanded greater transparency, leading to an enduring legacy of scrutiny that continues to shape corporate practices today. This evolving relationship between corporations and society found a critical reference point in the Enron saga. Once celebrated as a beacon of innovation and economic prowess, communities that once viewed the organization as a vital contributor to economic growth were left grappling with the fallout. Employees faced job losses, while investors were confronted with the stark reality of diminished savings. The implications rippled through the local and national economies, prompting a reevaluation of corporate accountability. Legislative measures emerged, aiming to enhance regulatory frameworks and restore faith in corporate governance. These developments underscored a fundamental shift in societal expectations, emphasizing the necessity for transparency, integrity, and ethical conduct. The consequences of this corporate failure reverberated beyond financial markets, influencing public sentiment and fostering a demand for more responsible business practices. The lessons gleaned from Enron serve as a reminder of the intricate connections between corporations and the societies they inhabit. This precarious balance requires ongoing vigilance, ensuring that ethical considerations remain at the forefront of corporate strategy as society continues to evolve. The fallout from the Enron scandal reshaped investor relations, prompting a reevaluation of transparency and accountability. Trust, once a cornerstone of corporate finance, eroded rapidly as revelations unfolded. This led to a heightened demand for ethical communication and integrity in financial disclosures. Companies recognized the necessity of establishing clear lines of communication with stakeholders, ensuring that information was both accessible and comprehensible. A shift towards proactive engagement emerged, focusing on building relationships rather than merely sharing data. Investor relations teams began prioritizing regular updates, fostering an atmosphere of openness that had been sorely lacking. This included the implementation of rigorous compliance measures, enhancing corporate governance frameworks to prevent similar occurrences. Educational initiatives became prevalent, with organizations dedicating resources to train executives and staff on ethical practices. A culture of responsibility developed as companies sought to embed ethics into their core values. This environment encouraged dialogue, facilitating discussions around risk management and long-term sustainability. As trust was painstakingly rebuilt, metrics for evaluating investor sentiment evolved. Stakeholder feedback mechanisms were established to gauge perceptions and address concerns promptly. Data analytics played a vital role, enabling companies to monitor public perception and adjust strategies accordingly. Thus, in the wake of Enron, a new era of investor relations emerged, characterized by vigilance, accountability, and a steadfast commitment to ethical practices. The role of financial analysts took on heightened significance in the aftermath of Enron. Their function shifted from mere number crunchers to guardians of integrity, tasked with maintaining a vigilant watch over financial disclosures. Analysts, once known for their optimistic projections, began to embrace a more critical approach. This transition reflected an awareness of the profound consequences that deception could inflict on markets and investors alike. In this reformed landscape, the emphasis on accountability became paramount. Analysts were expected to probe deeper into the financial health of companies, scrutinizing not just the surface figures, but also the underlying assumptions that informed them. The focus on transparency encouraged a healthier dialogue between corporations and their stakeholders. This was a time when analysts were called upon to challenge questionable practices and advocate for accurate reporting. The shift in expectations also influenced the methods used in evaluations. Traditional metrics were supplemented with assessments of corporate governance and ethical standards. Analysts began to articulate the importance of corporate culture, recognizing that it could substantially impact financial performance. This new paradigm fostered a sense of responsibility, with analysts understanding their pivotal role in safeguarding investor interests. As the echoes of past failures lingered, the commitment to rigorous, ethical reporting became a cornerstone of the financial industry. The legacy left by Enron casts a long shadow in business schools. Established as a case study, it serves as an enduring lesson in corporate governance and ethics. Students are introduced to the complexities of decision-making, the impact of corporate culture, and the significance of transparency. This institution now embodies the consequences of unchecked ambition and the moral pitfalls of financial engineering. Curricula often highlight the critical failures of leadership and oversight, emphasizing the importance of accountability. It is within these classrooms that future executives learn the necessity of ethical frameworks, reinforced by the stark realities of past transgressions. The downfall of Enron is dissected in detail, showcasing how innovative accounting practices obscured truth, and discussions frequently pivot to the role of regulatory bodies and the resultant legislative changes, such as the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This regulation emerged as a direct response, aiming to enhance corporate governance and restore confidence in financial reporting. Students evaluate the effectiveness of these reforms, pondering whether such measures can truly prevent future calamities. In this region of academia, the tragic narrative of Enron is not merely a cautionary tale, but a foundational element shaping the ethical landscape of business education. It represents a critical intersection of theory and practice, urging a reflective understanding of integrity in corporate endeavors. The erosion of integrity within the fading company had profound repercussions for its employees. This environment, once characterized by ambition and innovation, gradually transformed into one filled with anxiety and disillusionment. Workers who had dedicated their careers to the organization now found themselves grappling with uncertainty as the foundations of their professional lives began to crumble. It created a pervasive sense of mistrust, where loyalty was overshadowed by the fear of sudden layoffs and asset forfeiture. In the aftermath of the revelations surrounding unethical practices, morale plummeted sharply. Teams that once collaborated enthusiastically were now fragmented, retreating into isolation. The culture of fear stifled creativity and initiative, leaving employees feeling powerless and vulnerable. Many sought exits, only to discover that the job market had also been impacted by the company's decline. Throughout this region, stories of employees who had lost not only their jobs, but also their life savings became common. The emotional toll was compounded by the realization that years of hard work had been built on a precarious foundation of deceit. Those who remained often felt a sense of survivor's guilt, questioning the ethical implications of their continued association with the organization. The consequences of such a collapse extended far beyond the boardroom, permeating the lives of individuals and families deeply affected by these events. The absence of robust internal controls significantly contributed to the unraveling of Enron. Lax oversight allowed financial manipulations to flourish unchecked, creating an environment ripe for deception. Executives exploited weaknesses, leveraging complex financial instruments to obscure true performance. This region, once thriving with innovation and ambition, became a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of insufficient regulatory frameworks. Inadequate checks and balances permitted a culture of silence where dissenting voices were stifled. Employees, fearful of repercussions, often chose compliance over transparency, enabling unethical practices to thrive beneath the surface. The repercussions were profound, revealing the fragility of trust within corporate structures. It became evident that effective internal controls are essential not only for compliance, but also for the preservation of ethical standards. Lessons emerged from the rubble of Enron's downfall. Organizations began to recognize the necessity of implementing rigorous internal auditing processes. This focus on integrity aimed to restore confidence among stakeholders and the public. The realization that oversight must be proactive rather than reactive took root. As the dust settled, the remnants of Enron served as a stark reminder of how critical it is to ensure that controls are not merely procedural, but ingrained within the corporate ethos. This introspection prompted a broader discourse on governance. emphasizing the importance of accountability in maintaining a healthy corporate environment. This evolution fostered a new awareness surrounding corporate culture, highlighting the necessity for accountability and transparency as essential pillars. The remnants of the past became a lesson, revealing how an organization's ethos directly influences its trajectory. A transparent culture began to emerge, striving to encourage open communication and ethical decision-making among all levels of personnel. In this transformed landscape, accountability became a cornerstone, guiding individuals to act in the best interests of both the organization and its stakeholders. Reporting structures were reevaluated, ensuring that information flowed freely and without obstruction. These changes reflected a shift from a singular focus on profit maximization to a more balanced approach that valued integrity and responsibility. Organizations took steps to establish clear guidelines and practices that would prevent the kind of deceptive behaviors that had previously flourished. Whistleblower protections were enhanced, encouraging employees to voice concerns without fear of retribution. This growing emphasis on transparency led to a stronger trust between management and staff, fostering an environment where ethical considerations were prioritized. These transformations did not occur overnight. They required a concerted effort from leadership to cultivate a culture that valued honesty and ethical practices. The slow but steady shift towards embracing accountability and transparency reshaped the corporate landscape, creating a more resilient foundation for future endeavors. Understanding the psychological aspects of greed reveals a complex interplay between ambition and morality within corporate behavior. This phenomenon often manifests in an insatiable desire for wealth, power, and recognition, driving individuals to prioritize personal gain over ethical considerations. In this environment, the boundaries of acceptable conduct become blurred, fueling a culture where deceit flourishes. Within this corporate psyche, the allure of quick profits often overshadows long-term sustainability. This region saw executives rationalizing unethical decisions under the belief that success was paramount, disregarding the potential fallout. Such justifications create a fertile ground for malpractice, as individuals become ensnared in a cycle of ambition that supersedes integrity. The influence of groupthink further complicates this dynamic. It fosters an environment where dissenting voices are silenced and collective rationalizations take precedence. In the case of prominent failures, it becomes evident how shared delusions can lead an organization down a treacherous path. This failure to recognize the detrimental effects of greed. The media's role in corporate scandals often serves as a double-edged sword. It can both illuminate the depths of deception and contribute to an environment of sensationalism. In the case of Enron, the relentless pursuit of the story led to the unearthing of unethical practices, revealing the facade that had been meticulously constructed. Reports began to emerge, highlighting financial discrepancies, questionable accounting methods, and conflicts of interest. This scrutiny prompted public awareness and concern regarding the integrity of corporate governance. As investigations unfolded, the media shifted from an initial fascination with Enron's meteoric rise to a critical examination of its practices. This transition reflected a changing narrative, one that evolved from admiration to caution. The relentless coverage served to educate investors and stakeholders about the risks associated with unchecked ambition and lack of transparency. Yet in this environment, the media also risked contributing to a culture of mistrust. Sensational headlines often overshadowed the complexities of corporate behavior, simplifying intricate issues into digestible sound bites. This reductionist approach could lead to misconceptions about the broader implications of such a corporate collapse. The fallout from Enron would prompt a reevaluation of regulatory measures and ethical standards, reshaping public perception of the business world for years to come. The balance between exposure and sensationalism remains delicate, a persistent challenge in modern journalism. The Enron crisis epitomizes the complexities of corporate ethics and accountability. This company, once celebrated for its innovation and rapid expansion, faced a catastrophic unraveling in the early 2000s. Revelations of systemic deception and fraudulent practices dismantled public trust, revealing the stark disparity between the facade of success and the underlying malfeasance. Investors lost billions, employees faced unemployment, and the ripple effects extended far beyond the corporate headquarters. This tragedy catalyzed a broader societal reflection on the responsibilities of corporations. As the dust settled, the focus shifted toward social responsibility, prompting stakeholders to demand transparency and ethical governance. The implications of the Enron collapse initiated a paradigm shift wherein corporations were urged to consider their impact on communities and the environment. No longer could the singular pursuit of profit justify unethical behavior. Regulatory measures began to take shape, with the Sarbanes-Oxley Act emerging as a response to protect investors and restore confidence in financial reporting. The corporate landscape transformed, with heightened emphasis on accountability and ethical standards. Many organizations began integrating social responsibility into their core strategies, recognizing that sustainable success requires a commitment to integrity and stewardship. In this evolving environment, the legacy of Enron serves as a cautionary tale, underscoring the necessity for vigilance in corporate conduct. The erosion of public trust in corporations has been a gradual process, influenced by historical events and shifting societal expectations. Once perceived as pillars of stability and integrity, corporations have, over time, faced scrutiny that has chipped away at their reputations. Trust was once built on the premise of accountability and transparency, where shareholders and the public believed in the ethical foundations of these entities. In the late 20th century, the landscape began to shift as high-profile scandals emerged. They revealed the fragility of the public's faith, exposing a network of deception and malfeasance that had long been overlooked. Various industries were implicated, showcasing that greed could infiltrate even the most ostensibly reputable organizations. These incidents prompted a reevaluation of corporate governance, highlighting the need for regulatory frameworks aimed at restoring confidence. The fallout from Enron, along with other failures, triggered a wave of reforms designed to increase oversight and ensure compliance. Nevertheless, the damage had been done. Trust, once easily granted, became a commodity that required cultivation and diligence. The public's perception of corporations transformed from one of implicit trust to a more skeptical stance, where due diligence became essential in evaluating corporate integrity. This shift marked a significant turning point in the relationship between corporations and the society they serve. The long-term effects on the energy sector became apparent as the ramifications of deceit and malpractice unfurled. The collapse of this once revered giant triggered a wave of skepticism, casting a long shadow over the industry. Trust eroded, leaving consumers wary and investors hesitant to engage with energy companies. Regulatory bodies responded with increased scrutiny, implementing stringent measures aimed at preventing similar failures. These changes became a hallmark of a new era marked by heightened oversight. Many organizations sought to rebuild credibility, yet the lingering specter of Enron's downfall haunted their efforts. Financial practices that had been commonplace were now viewed through a lens of suspicion. Risk management strategies intensified as firms endeavored to avoid the pitfalls that had ensnared their predecessor. The once vibrant landscape of energy trading transformed, with participants adopting conservative approaches that stifled innovation. This environment fostered a culture of caution, where the pursuit of growth became secondary to compliance and risk mitigation. The long-term repercussions extended beyond the corporate sphere, affecting energy prices and availability. Consumers faced a paradox. While the industry aimed for stability, the stagnation stifled advancements in sustainable practices. In this climate, the lessons learned from Enron served as a cautionary tale, reminding stakeholders of the delicate balance between ambition and ethical responsibility. Corporate governance at Enron showcased a striking dissonance between stated values and actual practices. This organization, once hailed for its innovative approach, implemented structures that were ostensibly designed to promote accountability and transparency. In reality, these frameworks often prioritized profit over principle, creating an environment where unethical behavior flourished. Board members entrusted with the responsibility of overseeing the company's operations frequently failed to act in the best interest of shareholders. Instead, they became complicit in decisions that would. The culture within this organization valued aggressive tactics and short-term gains, overshadowing ethical considerations. Employees were incentivized to prioritize results over methods, leading to an environment rife with pressure and fear. Whistleblowers faced significant repercussions, further silencing voices that might have challenged the prevailing ethos. This decline was not merely a failure of leadership, but a reflection of systemic issues within corporate governance practices. The implications of Enron's collapse extend far beyond its own operations, serving as a stark reminder of the potential consequences when ethical considerations are subordinated to financial ambition. The educational landscape faces a significant challenge in addressing corporate ethics, particularly in light of past failures such as Enron. A curriculum shift emerges as a crucial component in fostering an environment where integrity is prioritized over profit. Business schools are increasingly recognizing the necessity of integrating ethical decision-making into their programs. This evolution is not merely an academic exercise, but a fundamental restructuring of how future leaders are prepared. Incorporating ethics into core business courses encourages students to critically evaluate the long-term implications of their actions. It instills a sense of responsibility, emphasizing that financial success should not come at the expense of moral integrity. Case studies of significant corporate failures serve as powerful teaching tools, allowing students to dissect the decisions that led to these downfalls. Programs now emphasize real-world applications, encouraging students to engage in discussions surrounding transparency, accountability, and the importance of ethical leadership. This approach cultivates a generation of business professionals equipped to recognize the warning signs of unethical practices. As these educational reforms gain traction, the hope is that they will contribute to a corporate culture that values ethical considerations equally alongside financial performance. The future may hold the potential for a shift in corporate attitudes, fostering a climate where integrity prevails. A profound sense of betrayal permeated the environment surrounding this once revered corporation. Employees, who had dedicated years of their lives to its success, found themselves ensnared in a web of deceit. Promises of stability and prosperity disintegrated into smoke, revealing a stark reality that would haunt many for years to come. It became evident that those at the helm prioritized personal gain over the welfare of their workforce. Shareholders witnessed the devaluation of their investments as financial reports masked the true health of the company. Trust evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Stakeholders who had placed their faith in the integrity of leadership were met with the harsh truth of manipulated figures and hidden debts. The disillusionment was palpable as families faced financial ruin and shattered dreams. The ramifications extended beyond mere financial loss. community ties frayed, and the social fabric of the region began to unravel. The local economy, once buoyed by the prosperity of this entity, now faced uncertainty and despair. Competitors observed the collapse with a mix of caution and concern, their own practices scrutinized in light of the unfolding scandal. In the end, the narrative of betrayal was not merely a corporate failure. It became a cautionary tale that resonated within the broader landscape of business ethics. This case serves as a stark reminder of the vital role that transparency plays in corporate governance. Financial practices, obscured by layers of complexity and deceit, foster an environment where unethical behavior can thrive. The use of intricate accounting schemes masked the true financial state of the company, presenting a facade of success while the underlying reality was one of disarray. Investors, stakeholders, and employees alike were misled by the glimmer of inflated profits and manipulated stock prices. Internal cultures, cultivated by a relentless drive for profit, sidelined ethical considerations. Executives prioritized personal gain over the welfare of the organization, promoting an atmosphere of secrecy that discouraged accountability. This approach. Lessons learned from this region's debacle emphasize the necessity for openness in all business dealings. Clear communication and honest financial reporting can prevent the pitfalls that ensnared this company. The consequences of deception extend beyond the corporate walls. They ripple through communities and economies, affecting countless lives. In the aftermath of the collapse, regulatory measures sought to enhance transparency and restore public confidence. Reforms emerged as a direct response to the failures witnessed, highlighting the importance of ethical leadership and integrity in fostering sustainable business practices. The role of technology in the downfall of this fading company reflects a complex interplay of innovation and deceit. Advanced financial instruments were crafted, described as cutting-edge solutions, yet they masked underlying vulnerabilities. They facilitated the manipulation of financial statements, creating an illusion of profitability that attracted investors and analysts alike. This region of high-stakes finance thrived on sophisticated models and algorithms, which were celebrated as revolutionary. Amidst this environment, reliance on technology grew, fostering a culture that prioritized appearances over reality. The tools intended to enhance transparency instead became instruments of obfuscation. Employees, under pressure to deliver results, turned to these digital solutions, rationalizing their actions as necessary for survival in a competitive landscape. The allure of rapid advancement clouded judgment, leading to decisions that would. The aggressive push for innovation overshadowed the ethical implications of such technologies. When the facade inevitably crumbled, it revealed the fragility of a system that had become overly dependent on digital sophistication without adequate oversight. This cautionary tale serves as a stark reminder that technological advancement, while beneficial, must be matched with a commitment to ethical practices. The repercussions of neglecting this balance extend far beyond the walls of a single company, resonating throughout the corporate world. Investor behavior shifted markedly in the aftermath of Enron's collapse. A once unwavering confidence in corporate governance, fueled by a culture of risk-taking and speculative investments, began to wane. This alteration was not merely a reaction to one company's demise. It represented a broader reevaluation of trust in financial statements and the integrity of leadership. In this new climate, the desire for transparency became paramount. Investors sought clearer disclosures, demanding that companies provide not only current performance figures, but also a comprehensive view of potential risks. The fading company, once a beacon of innovation, had set a precedent that prompted a surge in skepticism. Red flags, once ignored, were now scrutinized with a discerning eye. This region of finance witnessed an emergence of risk assessment tools designed to dissect the complexities of investment portfolios. Analysts began to prioritize thorough due diligence, examining not only the surface of financial reports, but also the underlying assumptions that drove them. The emergence of regulatory reforms further illustrated this pivot. Laws were enacted to enforce accountability, aiming to restore faith among investors. Institutional investors, once passive participants, started to engage more aggressively, advocating for changes that aligned corporate practices with ethical standards. This period marked a significant transformation in how capital was allocated, as the lessons learned from Enron echoed throughout the investment community. The Enron scandal not only reshaped financial practices, but also found its way into popular culture, influencing films and literature that examined its profound implications. Several cinematic portrayals captured the essence of this corporate collapse, with narratives exploring the greed and deception that characterized the company's rise and fall. Documentaries meticulously detailed the intricate web of lies spun by executives, revealing the stark realities of corporate malfeasance. Books delving into this phenomenon dissected the psychological and cultural factors that allowed such ethical breaches to occur. They highlighted the allure of wealth and success that blinded many to the impending moral decay. In the shadows of this collapse, authors painted vivid portraits of the individuals involved, offering insights into their motivations and the consequences that ensued. The portrayal of Enron in these narratives served as a cautionary tale, prompting widespread reflection on the nature of corporate governance. This region of storytelling examined the fragile trust between investors and corporations, illustrating the long-lasting effects of betrayal. The impact resonated beyond the financial sector, influencing public perception of capitalism itself. As these discussions proliferated through various mediums, the lessons of Enron became embedded in the collective consciousness, shaping the dialogue around ethics and accountability in business. The corporate landscape began to shift in response to these revelations, leading to a reevaluation of internal policies and ethics. Companies swiftly adopted more stringent compliance protocols, recognizing the need for transparency. This region witnessed a marked increase in the establishment of ethics committees and oversight mechanisms aimed at preventing the kind of malfeasance that Enron had exemplified. The implementation of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act further solidified these changes, mandating greater financial disclosures and accountability for executives. Corporate governance structures transformed as boards sought to include independent members to mitigate conflicts of interest. Training programs were introduced, fostering a culture of ethical awareness among employees. This environment aimed to encourage whistleblowing and protect those who reported unethical practices. The repercussions of Enron extended to the financial sector, prompting investment firms and banks to reevaluate their due diligence processes. Enhanced scrutiny became commonplace as the need for robust risk assessment overshadowed previous practices. These adaptations reflected a broader acknowledgement that trust is paramount in maintaining stakeholder relationships. Over time, the corporate narrative shifted, with an emphasis on integrity and long-term sustainability. This gradual transformation created a new standard for accountability, and many organizations began to view ethical behavior not merely as a regulatory requirement, but as a vital component of their identity. The impact of Enron resonated deeply, reshaping corporate cultures across various sectors. The ethical considerations of corporate decision-making became starkly illuminated in the aftermath of Enron. This fading company, once a beacon of innovation and profitability, revealed the fragility of trust in the corporate world. Executives chose to prioritize short-term gains over long-term stability, engaging in deceptive practices that, in the wake of such actions, the implications for ethical standards in corporate governance emerged as critical. Many organizations began to reassess their own practices, recognizing the need for transparency and accountability. The fallout from Enron also prompted regulatory bodies to introduce stricter guidelines to prevent similar deceptions, highlighting a shift towards a more principled approach to corporate responsibility. An environment which once celebrated risk-taking evolved into one that demanded ethical scrutiny. The stark contrast between the company's initial image and its ultimate collapse served as a cautionary tale, underscoring the necessity of integrity in decision-making. Stakeholders, once dazzled by financial projections, now approached corporate entities with a more discerning eye, aware of the potential consequences of neglecting ethical considerations. It became evident that the moral compass of corporate leaders would play a pivotal role in shaping the future landscape of business. The interests of stakeholders emerged as a crucial consideration in the context of corporate governance. These individuals and groups, ranging from employees to investors, played a significant role in influencing decision-making processes. When leaders prioritize stakeholder interests, a more harmonious environment can develop, promoting sustainable growth. In contrast, when focus shifts away from these collective concerns, the foundations of trust rapidly erode. Debates around stakeholder engagement highlighted the tension between profit maximization and ethical responsibility. This region witnessed companies grappling with the expectations of various parties, each advocating for their concerns. Shareholders, driven by financial returns, often clashed with employees seeking job security and fair treatment. The result was a landscape fraught with conflicting priorities, leading to a precarious balance that many organizations struggle to maintain. In some cases, this imbalance culminated in decisions that favored short-term gains at the expense of long-term stability. The erosion of stakeholder trust contributed to the decline of many once prominent entities. As these organizations faced mounting pressures, the repercussions echoed through the market, revealing the fragility of a governance structure that fails to adequately consider diverse interests. The aftermath of this corporate failure prompted a reevaluation of ethical standards in business practices. A keen awareness emerged regarding the need for transparency, urging companies to adopt more rigorous governance frameworks. Regulatory bodies, influenced by the events surrounding Enron, began enforcing stricter compliance requirements to safeguard stakeholders' interests. This shift reflected a collective understanding that accountability was essential for restoring faith in the financial markets. New initiatives focused on enhancing the quality of financial disclosures, ensuring that investors received accurate and timely information. Organizations embraced rigorous auditing processes to eliminate the possibility of deceptive practices. The implementation of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act illustrated a commitment to enforcing ethical behavior through increased penalties for corporate malfeasance. These measures aimed not only to prevent similar occurrences, but also to rebuild the trust eroded by Enron's actions. Corporations began emphasizing corporate social responsibility, recognizing that ethical behavior could enhance long-term sustainability. Training programs on ethical decision-making became more prevalent, fostering a culture of integrity within organizations. This region of corporate governance experienced a gradual, yet profound transformation, as stakeholders demanded a higher standard of conduct from their leaders. The path to recovery remained arduous, but it marked a notable shift toward prioritizing ethical considerations in the corporate landscape. Trust, slowly rebuilt, became essential in restoring stability within the business community. The failure of this prominent corporation underscored the critical need for corporate responsibility. Ethical governance emerged as a cornerstone in the aftermath, illuminating the stark consequences of neglecting moral obligations. In this region of shattered reputations, stakeholders reflected on the inherent duty organizations have to uphold integrity and transparency. The collapse prompted an examination of accountability, revealing how deceptive practices can unravel not just a single entity, but an entire industry. Investors, once seduced by the allure of rapid profits, now grappled with the aftermath of misplaced trust. The erosion of confidence rippled through financial markets, signaling a demand for greater oversight and rigorous ethical standards. This realization resonated through the halls of corporate offices, where policies began shifting towards sustainability and ethical practices, striving to prevent a repetition of past mistakes. The remnants of Enron served as a cautionary tale, illustrating the fragility of trust when it is compromised by greed. This awareness fueled initiatives aimed at fostering a culture of responsibility, emphasizing that success must not come at the expense of ethics. Boardrooms across the nation began to prioritize transparency and accountability, recognizing that the health of the business ecosystem relies on mutual trust and ethical conduct. Lessons learned from these failures catalyzed a movement towards a more responsible corporate landscape, reshaping the future of business. The new landscape of corporate accountability emerged in the aftermath of Enron's demise. This shift prompted a reevaluation of ethical standards and governance structures within organizations. Increased scrutiny placed on financial reporting and transparency became paramount, as stakeholders sought to prevent a repeat of such devastating failures. Regulatory frameworks evolved, with the establishment of stringent guidelines aimed at fostering integrity and trust. Corporate boards began to prioritize diversity of thought, ensuring that varying perspectives contributed to decision-making processes. This region witnessed the rise of independent oversight committees, tasked with monitoring financial practices and ethical compliance. As organizations embraced these changes, a culture of responsibility began to take root within many sectors. Investors and consumers alike became more discerning, placing value on accountability and ethical conduct. The shift towards sustainability further influenced corporate strategies, compelling businesses to consider their impact on society and the environment. Companies that prioritize transparency, community engagement, and ethical governance began to thrive in this new era, demonstrating that profitability and integrity could coexist. The legacy of Enron served as a cautionary tale, but it also provided a foundation for growth and improvement in corporate practices. With a steadfast commitment to accountability, the future of business promised a more resilient and ethically grounded framework, reflecting the lessons gleaned from past failures. The enduring legacy of Enron reshaped the conversation surrounding corporate ethics and accountability. This incident exposed inherent vulnerabilities within financial systems, prompting a reevaluation of practices that had long been accepted. When the truth emerged, it revealed a culture steeped in deception, where ambition overshadowed integrity, leaving a profound impact on stakeholders and the broader business community. As the dust settled, regulatory bodies responded with heightened scrutiny and a renewed focus on transparency. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act emerged, a legislative response designed to safeguard against the manipulation that had plagued this once prominent entity. It instituted rigorous compliance measures, reshaping the landscape in which corporations operated, aiming to restore trust in the marketplace. Within this evolving framework, organizations began to adopt stricter ethical guidelines, recognizing the necessity of fostering a culture that valued honesty over deceit. Whistleblower protections gained prominence, allowing individuals to voice concerns without fear of reprisal, reflecting a shift toward prioritizing ethical leadership. Companies increasingly embraced corporate social responsibility, acknowledging their role beyond profit maximization. This transition signaled a collective understanding that sustainable success must align with ethical practices. In this way, the remnants of Enron's failure became a catalyst for transformation, influencing a new generation of business leaders to prioritize integrity, fortifying a framework that aims to prevent the repetition of past mistakes.